This is Your Pain Game podcast, where we talk about the game of living in and with chronic pain and trauma, getting to the heart of how to heal. I am your host, Lyndsay Soprano. On this show, I plan on discussing with doctors, chronic pain patients, holistic practitioners, loved ones, and anybody that is interested in having their voice heard in the chronic pain and trauma world that we live in. I have spent most of my life as a hot mess of a perfectionist, right? And not just like hot mess with perfectionism. I am definitely a hot mess, that is for sure. But let me tell you how successful I've been at perfection, like Zippo. Because in the words of my guest today, perfect is boring, right? And I love that so incredibly much because I've strived so hard to hit every deadline on time, if not early, everything in its place, everything just so color coordinated. I mean, it's unbelievable how much time I spend in a day to make sure that everything is just so. And then I start focusing on things that are actually really important. And some days it's like 6 hours later. I'm like, Jesus, Lyndsay, what the fuck? Like, focus on not everything being in a great little package tied up with a bow, right? I'm such a mess of a human. And I love being messy. I mean, I do. I love being colored. I love being who I am. But the number one reason that I'm such a messy human is because I focus on all of that stuff and I don't prioritize myself first. I get in my own way. Everybody is before me. Everyone. Everything is before me. Everything, right, is before me. And as my listeners know, the OCD struggle is real. I mean, it's legit. I do have it. I've had it since I was a little girl, as many of you have listened to. So how do I shift this? How do I get out of feeling guilty for caring for myself? How do I change that mindset, my mindset, and allow myself to better care for myself? And my guest today is going to help me, and more importantly, you, to shed some light on how we can love up on some self-care. Jeez Louise, look at me just now. I prioritized you over me while I'm saying to not do this. Jesus, help me.
Awareness is the first step.
Oh my God. Help me, Jesus. Help me. So let's talk about this. All right. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you today to my guest, Lesley Amazing Logan. And yes, that is her middle name. She showed me her birth certificate and everything. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today, since I guess I need a little bit of you in my life. We have so much to learn.
There's so much divine timing to today's chat, I feel
there
like.
There is so much divine timing. Guys, I woke up this morning. Well, I didn't wake up this morning. I woke up 2 days ago and I'm exhausted and I'm beat and I was sobbing and crying and not taking care of myself. And then this queen of self-care pops up into my world today. So thank you so much again for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. I love sharing this stuff. And I want to say I love being this queen of self-care. I call myself like the queen of accountability because I too burnt out, had major health issues because I wasn't caring for myself. And I'm not even a mom. I don't even have the mom guilt that they hand you at the hospital. I don't have that. I don't have any excuse. I have no one to take care of besides myself. and I have a husband and an amazing team, but I was always putting other people's goals in front of my own. And that led me to a total panic attack, and really realizing that I had all the research, I'd done all the stuff. And somewhere along the lines, I had stopped taking care of myself. I had stopped taking care of my health, which I was doing when I got into what I was doing. And I started trying to make everything perfect, trying to make sure everyone liked me, trying to make sure that I didn't disappoint anybody.
Oh yeah.
Which is impossible. You're going to disappoint everybody when you try to do that. And then coming out of that panic attack that I had and realizing okay, where do we go first? And that led me to what I'm doing now, which is how do I help everybody do this? Because it is a darn shame when you are not able to be the most amazing version of yourself for others, and you're actually keeping people from having the experience that they could have from you. And your experience with you, their experience with you might just be the thing that they need to learn their thing. And so my goodness, we're actually keeping people from possible opportunities because we're not taking care of ourselves first. We're also not loving people fully when we don't take care of ourselves first. We're not loving ourselves. So it's impossible to love others more than you love yourself. And so it just becomes this ripple effect of everybody just being exhausted, burnt out, sick, and tired, and pain. And we wonder why the world's going to hell.
Everything's going to hell in a handbasket.
Here it is. Here's your handbasket.
Here's your basket full of all your shit. Yeah. Well, let's introduce you though too. So Lesley,
let's do that.
Let's do that because you're kind of important here today. So Lesley is a certified Pilates teacher. And I love that she found it as a joke because she was making fun of Pilates. We'll get into that. She works with breathwork and habits and mindset. She's a mindset coach and founder of onlinepilatesclasses.com, which is the first free online catalog of Pilates exercise tutorials, where you can also find weekly Pilates classes and workshops. And not that it's more important, but because I love podcasting so much, she's also the host of an amazing show. And I don't say that often, okay? Because there's so much shit out there in the podcast world and hers is not. It is called Be It Till You See It, where each week she hosts multiple guests from all walks of life, digging into how they finally prioritize themselves to get where they are today. And I'm hoping that in like 6 months from now, I'm on your show talking about how I got the hell out of people pleasing and giving a little bit more of a shit about myself, right?
Okay. Accountability queen date set. Yes. I want to hear from you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So December 6th.
What a great follow-up.
Wait.
Yeah.
So December 6th? Yeah. Something
December
like
6th.
that. So let's talk about what brought you into this world. I know you said a panic attack, but in the world of preaching this message of self-care and as not being selfish, because I think that is something I struggle with big time. And a lot of other people do as well, is the people pleasing thing is so incredibly like detrimental to my life. And you're right when you just said earlier about how we can't even take care of the people in our lives and give them our best version if we're not doing it to ourselves. So let's start from there. Let's roll out the red carpet for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love a red carpet. So I think I was in retail before Pilates, and I think this is an important thing to share because I worked in high-end accessory store that they had a location. They're one of the few privately owned businesses that was in South Coast Plaza. And they had locations all over the boutique malls in LA, one of them being in Fred Siegel, and they had a shop in Vegas. And so I had worked my way up into that company, and I was training different people, different stores. And it was not difficult to sell a $5,000 ring to people. Like it was just not hard. Like they would come in. Sometimes people would have to think about it. Sometimes people just go, yeah, I like that, because this was not like Cartier stuff. This is like really unique jewelry, really awesome purses. Like if y'all remember the initial bag Halle Berry wore, we sold that before anyone else did. So like we were just like on top of the trends, and it was hilarious. People would come in and I'm like, this is a $700, really soft leather, gonna get stained on my blue jeans purse that I'm selling. And people are just like, they literally would look at it and like have no problems buying it. But if you ask them, oh, like, have you, like, they're like, my back hurts, or oh my gosh, I'm just really exhausted, so I'm just doing retail therapy. And I'm like, well, have you done therapy?
What's that?
Like, have you done that? I mean, so like, obviously when my retail, I didn't really want them to ditch out on me, but like, it was so interesting. So when I became a Pilates instructor, this is in 2008, which if you all are 2008 was no one forgot that year.
Nobody.
So it hit everybody very difficult no matter what industry you're in. And here my clients were like going from buying real leather bags to, we call them vegan bags. Because they were faux leather, because people weren't buying $700 bags anymore. But I could get them by $100 bag because they still wanted to shop. There was still that habit of doing that. And so I was watching them like cut off their, Alhambra water delivery and like all this stuff. But yet I was getting all these Pilates clients. I had no problems getting Pilates clients. I was also super passionate about it. So I think that was part of it. However, what was interesting to me is how the same person who would buy the designer handbag would ask for the discount on their Pilates and or say it was too expensive altogether, or they would reschedule it all the time. Like, oh, I have to go to this luncheon thing. Oh, I have to do this. And it was so interesting to me because here I was giving them this gift, this practice that could actually change their life, change their posture, change their digestion, change how they like moved in this world and prevented injury. And they were constantly rescheduling it for things that could be done at another time. You could have lunch after your Pilates session. You could
you can buy a bag whenever the fuck you want to.
Right. So it was just so fascinating to me, the intentionality and like the emphasis people put on their self-care. They would either think it's a luxury or they would just move it around, just like going to get their nails done. And so I had to figure out a way to keep them consistent, because if they were consistent, A, they got their goals. B, that's how I made my money, because I ended up quitting retail to be a full-time Pilates instructor, which is amazing. Like that was such a great gift, and obviously perfect timing because the industry went downhill. However, I had to figure out a way to get them to be consistent. And I had to figure out like, what are the things that are keeping them from doing that? Why do they think that it's selfish to come to Pilates 2 times a week instead of their kid going to some art class? Like what's going on here? So I had to figure that out. And that is what led me to really diving into mindset, like how we do things, why we do the things that we do, habits. And then I had my own situation where I overworked myself because I said yes to too many things. I didn't want to disappoint anybody. And then I had to take my own medicine, which was probably the best experience ever, because it's really easy to say things. And like, if it comes easy to you, you don't realize like it's hard for other people. Once I was in that same boat, realizing how much you have to do to retrain your friends around your boundaries, like rebuild your own boundaries for yourself, how to do things when you're not motivated to do them. I had to do all of those experiments myself. And I think that's really got me to where I am now, where I can talk to people and go, I see you. Like, I didn't want to wake up this morning either. I did not want to get in that cold shower this morning. There was nothing about it that wanted to get in there. But motivation's not the person that you ask to pick you up at the airport for an important meeting. It's the person you go to a party with. Motivation is super fun when it wants to be. And it's like, but it's not the thing that gets you there. So you have to use habits. You have to remember why you do the thing that you do. And you have to just sometimes do the darn thing so that you reap the benefits of it. And I've never regretted the workout that I did for myself. I've never regretted the time I took care of myself. You don't regret those things. I have regretted staying out too late. I have regretted saying yes to a party instead of going to do the thing that was going to make me feel good. And so it's like, you got to have those experiments. And then you also have to be kind to yourself. And that always that journey that kind of got me there. We can dive into any of those things though.
What in God's name is being kind to yourself?
Oh my God.
I don't understand these words that are coming out of your mouth. I mean, it really is unbelievable how, and I know a lot of my self-care stuff has been going on from the beginning of time, or my non-self-care has been going on since I was a little girl.
It probably wasn't modeled for you. Like, was your mom like the queen of self-care?
No.
Yeah.
No, nobody was the queen or king of anything in that regard. It was, I'm a kid of the late 70s and early 80s. And it was just like, well, have at it and let me know how it all shakes out when you're 45, right? Well, I just turned 45 last week and I can tell you how exhausted I am. I am freaking pooped, man. Like, I'm halfway to 90, which there's no way I'm making it to 90 unless there's some like super pill that gets launched out there for me. But when it comes down to like when I was diagnosed with my CRPS, I had one mindset at that time, which was woe is me. And I'm going to live in pain for the remainder of my life. And I'm just going to be a drug addict, something or other, because I was been given all these opiates and I was given all these things. And my coping mechanisms were just fade into the ether. And instead I had to shift my mindset, and it came with a scary night where I attempted suicide and so on. And when that happened, everything shifted with my mindset. Now, what happened was my mindset shifted to handle pain in a different way. But I still didn't embrace the full mode of what I needed to do to take care of myself, because I was still always taking care of everybody else. And I've been like that forever. And so I look back and go, is the reason why I am ill and the reason why I have this diagnosis is because I have not cared for me when I've cared for everybody else? The answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely yes. And over the past couple of weeks, I've gone through a bunch of shit that shouldn't have happened in my world, but it did. And within that space, I have just fallen down in this little like dark dungeon of mine that I'm familiar with, and I know where it leads, but I'm healthy enough to pull myself out of it. But I am struggling wholeheartedly on boundaries and saying no, where I say yes, 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 yes. I did it yesterday and I was like, oh my God, why did I just say that I would get that done?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
why do we do this shit?
So you have to, honestly, like the best thing you can do is like have some canned things in your notes on your phone. So when text messages or emails come through, you can just copy and paste. Hey, that sounds amazing. Can I get back to you in 24 hours?
I love that.
Hey, that sounds awesome. I need to check my schedule. And here's the thing. I know that every person on the planet has like a phone that has their calendar on it. And everyone knows you have your calendar in your hand when you're saying this, but no one will actually question you. No one's ever going to go, your calendar's right there. Like, they're just not.
Yeah.
So people know that you have to check your calendar. Like they get that, right? So 100%, like put some canned responses that give you space to feel out what you actually want to say. Because sometimes I want to say yes to something, but I don't like when it's being offered to me. So I'm like, you know what? I want this to be a yes, but I hate taking calls before 10 a.m. Like I just don't do it.
Yeah,
Is there
no,
any
I'm a
way we
monster
can do it
before
at this
10 a.m.
time? And what's really funny, here's the thing that's crazy. When you start putting up boundaries, there are going to be some people who get really pissed off about it because like I had a client who, when I first started teaching, I was so afraid to lose a client that I would just move her around when she asked me moved around. The one time I got so busy, I was like, I have nothing. And she got mad at me. And I realized, oh, I trained her to think that she could just willy-nilly move things around. That's my fault. So she's mad at me because I'm changing the rules of the game without telling her. So I'd apologize. Hey, I'm so sorry. I should never have let you do that because that didn't actually allow you to like solidify this time in your schedule. I apologize. Moving forward, though, this is the time. And if I have any other openings, of course, I'll let you have access to those. But you should probably just protect this time. And my apologies. And like from then on out, I would tell clients, I don't move you around willy-nilly. It's you plan in advance. This is my late cancellation because I don't have the time and you need to protect this time. So apologize if you've trained people to treat you in a different way. And now moving forward, it's going this way. Most people, though, are going to be like, oh my God, you don't take calls before 10 a.m. That is so cool. I'm so like most people, you are going to give people so much permission in your life because they'll be like, oh, and then guess what? Then if they don't take calls before 10 a.m., then they're not going to ask you for a call before 10 a.m. because you just taught them we don't have to do that anymore. So have some canned answers that you can like or give yourself space and time. But I love a copy and paste of, hey, I'm going to get back to it in 24 hours. And then I just write myself a note to like look at that thing and make a decision around that. And sometimes that decision is, I need to get back to in a week. I apologize. I need more time. This is like not for right now. Sometimes I just have to kick it back into their court. But like you have to figure out what works for you because it can inspire others to start to do that. And then it's easier for everyone else. The easiest thing to picture about your self-care is this. So if it's a hot day and I have like a big pitcher of water and it is overflowing, if people are like, hey, can I get some water? I'm like, oh yeah, pour some in there, right? Like it's no problem. But if it's a hot day and my pitcher is half filled and people are asking for some water, I'm like, wait, okay, you can have some water, but like I need to keep some of it. And then like you start negotiating different ways, you start resenting people. Then someone bumps into you and you're like, what the fuck? You're spilling all of my water. This is the last I had of this, right? So if you picture it in that way, we are more generous with our time, with our love, with our energy when our cup is filled first. And so I know that everyone's a morning person, but you have got to make sure you have self-care in your day protected to fill your cup. And if you're a night owl, then do it at night. Have a nighttime routine. What's so cool, y'all, is when you start caring for yourself, even if it's for 5 minutes, you will have more energy, which means you get more things done. You have more time for other things. And all of a sudden, your self-care practice get longer the more you let yourself just start with 5 minutes.
Okay, so there are like 17,000 places I wanted to interrupt you in. One of them is boundaries. So I have gotten so much better with boundarying people. I'm not great at it. I am not an Academy Award winner in this department. I am in some other departments, but this is not one of them.
That's so badass. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yes, our neighbors are very proud of my performance some nights. Anyways, so when it comes down to boundaries, I literally had to shut people down completely. Like my best friend of almost 25 years, I told him a little over a year ago, I'm done. Like I am absolutely 100% done with you. Don't call me. Don't talk to me because his behavior in his life was so toxic. It was just like bleeding into my world. Very proud of that decision. And those are hard to do. They're really hard to do, but I'm so proud of myself that it was a really big deal for me. I mean, we're talking about somebody that's known me for, forever. And that was a big thing for me. And it's something that I still struggle with. Like every now and again, I'm like, should I text him and see how he's doing? And then I'm like, nope, because we did the blocking and we did all of these things. And I put it very loud and clear. This will be the last conversation that you have with me until you get yourself healthy. And of course, nothing's happened. In fact, he's gotten worse. But then there was the topic of resentment. And I really, really want you to talk about that because I deal with resentment in a relationship in my world with a girlfriend of mine. And I am bottling it and I'm bottling it. And I am not as I don't mind confrontation. Like it's not a big thing for me. I have no problem with that. But for some reason, I do not stick up for myself when it comes to her and I's relationship. And I am completely taken advantage of. And I feel like she's incredibly ungrateful. And here I am, it's just eating at me and eating at me. And that resentment is getting in the way of a decision that I know I might be needing to make.
So resentment comes when we have broken a promise with ourselves. So it's not her. So sorry.
Great. Thanks a lot, asshole. It was nice knowing you. Thank you so much.
Look, it is her, but she's also just being herself. So when in the breathwork training I was in, they said there are space takers and space makers in this world, and neither is wrong. However, if you are a space maker, you actually just need to acknowledge that, because you will tend to just make space for people. And space takers, they're just going to take when you make space. So if you actually stop making space, they'll stop taking. When they ask, can we do tomorrow? They actually are, unless they have some other issues going on. In general, a healthy space taker is just asking where the boundary is. And so if you are like, oh yeah, you can totally borrow my clothes. Oh yeah, you can totally do that. No, you actually cannot sleep, at my house. They will be like, okay, cool. Because you told them where the line is. So what's happening is, it sounds like you are a space maker. You do everything for everybody else. And a lot of the people in your life are space takers. What you have to do is be very clear on like where the line gets drawn. And then you have to uphold that. What is happening is the line is blurred, or you communicated it one time a long time ago, but then you actually didn't uphold it. And so you're hoping that she just like realizes that she's taking advantage of your friendship. And she's like, wow, Lyndsay's so cool. I can do all these things. Like, she's probably actually talking about how awesome you are as a friend versus like how much she's actually like taking advantage. She's like, probably not going, oh God, I'm taking such advantage of Lyndsay. Like, I can do all these things and she doesn't even care. Like, that's not what's
she's just
happening.
like, okay, no problem. Let's just keep doing this. And that's what I'm doing. In fact, this past weekend was my birthday, and I took her on a trip for the weekend that was fully expense paid by me. And I didn't get a thank you or a birthday card. And I'm fucking pissed. I told my sweetie, I was like, if she doesn't bring me a card, I'm leaving her at the resort. What did I do? Nothing. All I did was spend more money.
Yeah. Well,
I did nothing.
I think like what will probably, you don't have to cut the friendship off right away, but
no, because I love her so much.
But you can just say, I love you so much. And I don't mind doing these things, but here's what I need in advance. And I guess I have been hoping you would give it to me, and I haven't gotten it. So like, I need that. It's kind of like your love language. Before we were recording, I was like, words of affirmation, my love language, right? Like my husband is acts of service. So he fucking does everything for me. And sometimes I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, oh, I can't do this thing. And he'll just grab my computer and he'll fix the thing and he'll just do the thing. And I'm like, sometimes like, I want to learn how to do it. Right. But he is showing his acts of service.
Right.
So one day I was like, okay, he's acts of service. So I stopped off. This is when we lived in LA and I could walk from my studio to my house. I stopped at the store. I bought a 6-pack of beer. I like brought it home. I was like, hey, I brought you this. You would have thought keys to the kingdom, most amazing wife that ever entered this world, ever.
Well, duh. Of course you are.
I am. But I actually spoke to him in his love language of acts of service. So
sure.
He makes a point to talk to me like with nice, positive thoughts. So what I'm saying to you is like, it sounds like you and your friend have different languages of how you appreciate each other, and you are not feeling appreciated. So you actually just have to say in a very calm, on a day when you're feeling good, like, hey, I don't want to make this a big deal, but this is what I need out of this friendship. And you don't have to say yes to it right now, but I need our next conversation for us to address this, because it really hurt my feelings when you didn't even like bring a card on my birthday trip. And she might not be a gifts person. So it might not even resonate to her. Right. So I think like when we resent people, we are letting people break an agreement with ourselves, but we have not actually spoken it to them. And if we have not upheld the boundary. And it is not fun, but boundaries are kind. When we don't, there's a difference between kind and nice. And when I learned this, you guys, oh my God, my mind was fucking blown. So kind and nice is different. Nice is like, this is how it was explained to me. So if a little kid asks for candy and you just give them the candy, you are nice. But if you say to the kid, you know what, we're about to have dinner in 2 hours. If you're hungry, we can have a light snack, but we're going to have dinner. We don't want to ruin your dinner. We can have the candy after dinner if you still want it. That's being kind. You're like setting them up to have better habits in their life of like, when should I like treat myself to candy, right? Versus nice is just giving it to them. So you have been really nice to this friend, but you have not been kind to this friend. You have not like we need to do some more boundary checks with this person. And it's interesting. We can have really strong boundaries in some places and not in others. Like I have amazingly strong boundaries when it comes to business. Like you do not fuck with me there.
Yeah.
But when it comes to some family members, I'm like, I have a really hard time. My father just opens the door. Like he just comes to the house and just like uses his key. And like we're sitting there having a meeting and I'm like, is my dad? Did he tell you he's coming? No, he didn't tell you he was coming. And he comes in, he grabs a mask. He's like, gotta go to the doctor's appointment. I'm like, you just came here for a mask? Like no boundaries. So obviously I have some things to work on there, but like, so it's okay. But that goes back to the point of being perfect. It is okay to recognize you have a muscle somewhere else and we can just tap into that strength when we need it. We don't have to be perfect everywhere to have good boundaries.
I'm exhausted.
You've been sleeping 2 days. And also you're doing so much for so many. Like that's so hard.
Yeah, it is. And I don't want to be like a martyr about it at all, right? Like but I do. I give and I give and I give and I give and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes just absolutely against my will. I'm like, how am I even doing this right now? Like I'm not gaining anything. I don't even know if some of the people that I help actually gain anything from it either. Like it's such a weird tug of war. I'm a Gemini, of course. So I'm just like, I'm fighting myself.
I have Gemini moon, so I understand.
Yeah. And I'm just like straight down the middle. I'm just so Gemini. It's stupid. But it's such a challenge because we used to have all these friends when we were younger. It was how many people that you had in your life and how many friends you had and how popular they were. For me, I'm like, I'm good with like 2.
Yeah, I understand that. I remember so I grew up just not feeling like I belonged. And I always preface this just in case anybody ever listens to a podcast I'm on that's like, I was your friend. I did have friends. So it wasn't like did not have friends. I had a friend group. I had friends for a long time. But I never actually felt like I belonged even in that friend group. I always felt like I was like the outsider who's like, I kind of felt like I was like the last one invited all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like I was invited, but like it felt like I was the last one.
But I'm too pretty to not be invited.
Like an after, I had perm bangs, Lyndsay, and braces. So pretty sure at 13, I was not that.
Well, you turned out fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just like dreamed of getting out of the town I was in. I just dreamed of it. And then I went to college. Like I made sure I like took on student loans and get the fuck out of that town. Cause I was like, I'm going to belong in college. And I really didn't belong in college. It was a private university, not private just in money, but like religious. And while like out of all the religious schools that had the least rules, it still had like, don't ever fucking sin. They didn't use the F word. Obviously that would have been a sin too. But like the kids were tattooed. There was people who were dating. Like there was things like that. However, I really didn't belong there. Like all the girls had like their dream husband list written down. And I was like, I don't know why you'd want to date that person.
Everyone's
like,
playing MASH.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. That's so funny. Oh my God. That's so funny. So I really didn't feel like I belonged there. And so when I got this job in retail and I was so quickly promoted and all this stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is kind of like, I feel like I'm achieving something. And even though I don't have any like friends that I like really want to call tonight, I like have something to do. And it was when I discovered Pilates that I actually felt like I belonged in my body. And what I discovered is this: your ability to be any of the things out there in this world, you have to start with yourself. And so I didn't feel like I belonged in any of those towns, not because any of them there was nothing wrong with anybody. It was 100% how I was connecting to myself. And I wasn't. I was like, I'm an Aquarius sun, y'all. So like I'm an air sign. I'm in my head. I have multiple conversations with myself. And sometimes you're included. But like, so I
do know that you're talking to me right now, right?
Yeah. So I just really I didn't realize it until I was like 22 years old. But oh, this is why I didn't feel like I belonged. And what's crazy is I went to Pilates every single day and I got more connected to myself. And the more connected I got to myself, the more I realized I didn't want to live in that town. I wanted to move. And then so I moved to LA. And then the more I got connected to myself, the more Pilates I did, the more I was like, I don't want to do this job anymore. I want to do this job. And they kept going. And so I say this to say, like, when it comes to taking care of yourself and understand what self-care is for you, it could be a long journey because you've not taken care of yourself in so long. We don't even know what you like. You have to do the runaway bride thing where she orders every kind of egg and like sits there and like sees if she likes, do I like him like this? Do I like him like that? You have to figure it out.
Yeah. It's just so interesting because I was super popular in high school. Oh my gosh. But I also was part of like 17 different freaking groups, right? I was in music because I was an opera major, blah, blah. So I was in music. I was in dance. I was great. I was great in school. So I was in all the honors in AP. my high school sweetheart was the pitcher of the baseball team. So I was part of the sports side. And then my mom
did it up. You
my
were like,
mom was
they
a
made
teacher,
movies about
so
you.
I was a teacher's kid. Like I was all of these things. I did my drugs and my drinking and my sex and my rock and roll, and I did all of that. And I almost did it as a guise of different people throughout my entire like junior high and high school, even into college. And I never really identified with myself of who I actually am. Never. And even as I'm saying this, it's almost like tear jerking because I'm like, do I even know who I am right now while I'm doing this conversation with my sweet little Lesley Amazing Logan? I honestly just like it's so hard to self-care when you're not aware of yourself.
Yeah. I think you just like dropped the mic, lady. That's
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I also just like, thank you for sharing that. And I feel like everyone listening is like nodding. Like, I first of all do not think we are supposed to know who we are and what we want until like our brain is fully developed, which I heard is like early 20s or mid 20s or something like that.
So like 45 for me. So I'm just starting today.
Yeah. And like, I also think that like, we don't live in a society that wants you to stop and check in.
Yeah.
How does this feel? We live in a society where like you're dating the most popular guy in school. When are you guys going to get married? Then once you're married, when are you going to have kids? When should a kid, are you going to have another kid? Like it takes everything in me to consciously, like I just tell my friends who are like trying to have a kid, I'm like, just so you know, I'm not interested in you having a kid. I'm not going to ask you a question that could bring up trauma about trying to have a kid. So if you want to share your childbearing journey with me, you need to tell me. Otherwise, we're going to talk about everything else because I think it's inappropriate to put that pressure on you to be one of those other people adding all this pressure. And so we don't live in a society that lets you go, so how are you actually today really? And what do you like? We ask you, well, what does that mean? How's that going to affect your partner's work? How's that? Like whenever I say I'm going to do something, people are like, oh, well, what about these things? And they're all worried for you. They're just like constantly worried for you. And you're like, I wasn't actually thinking about losing everything in my life, but now that you put it that way,
Thank you so very much.
I guess I'll just stick with a thing that doesn't make me happy.
Seriously,
so we just don't. We are not trained to actually have conversation with people that can allow them to just be an exploration of themselves. Everything has to have meaning. You have to know what it is. You have to have the right answer. And like, my goodness, if you say I'm having a really shit day, for whatever reason, we don't know how to sit with you and go, God, that sucks. We just go, oh, well, have you done these 17 things? Have you done these 17 things, Lyndsay? Because then you probably, that's why you feel like shit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting because like nobody really asks me like, how are you doing today? I don't know. Cause maybe my answer is, especially in the past couple of years with all of my pain stuff, I've had to kind of ask people to not ask me how I'm doing because the answer is not all that great. I'm like, well, I'm on my way to Lowe's to buy a chainsaw so I can cut my legs off. How are you doing today? Right. So like, there's this like imbalance in like where I've created my own rules for the people in my life on how they are supposed to respond to me when I am feeling a certain way, whether or not they even know how I'm actually feeling, because everyone's kind of like walking on eggshells about it. Yeah. Or I have people that are like, oh my gosh, back is killing me. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I know that you live in pain and I'm not complaining. I'm like, yes, thank you. Please complain. Please let me know that you're in pain. Well, I want you to be in pain. Thank you. Which I don't. But it's one of those things where I made these rules without even knowing that I was doing that.
Well, self-preservation is, it's not insane. Like, it's like your lizard brain, like going, hey, we need to protect ourselves. Like, these are the rules to play with me. I grew up, my father, he turned 71 yesterday. I grew up with him going to the grocery store and people go, oh, how are you doing today? And he's like, can't complain, which is like, can't complain. And then he would follow it up with, not that anyone would listen.
Oh, I love
so
Dad.
I grew up going, don't complain because no one gives a fuck. Like, no one cares. And so I think like, I think that's like hilarious and also terrible that like,
terrible. Yeah.
So whenever I ask him like, hey Dad, how are you feeling today? Oh, what happened? And like, he'll like have like some quip or whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a bummer. And he was like, it's up at like this recent time in his life with having like, where he's an adult and I'm an adult, where he can actually like, he can actually go, oh yeah, I guess like, I just don't want to be the old person. Like he can actually like have these thoughts about and like reflect about why he's making the decision that he's making. Right. And I wish that like we just train people, because wouldn't it be nice in his youth to have said, today was a really rough day. Like today actually sucked at work, but I'm so glad I get to make this dinner, or just have these real things, because what ends up happening, and even with social media out there, I am someone who doesn't actually want people to feel sorry for me. So I do not post about anything that I am going through until I've gone through it. Meaning the last 3 years, I have been trying to do everything to beg, borrow, and steal to prove to the fucking mortgage people that I can afford the house I've been paying for. So I was on a contracted deed. Look at me. I'm paying for it every month. And they're like, still not good enough. We still don't think you make any money. I'm like, I make a lot of money. I make more money every single year. Like I make more than my fucking friends who also own a home, but they happen to buy it when they had a job. And like, that's the problem, right? So I didn't share that with anybody. And of course, there were days where like I went dark online. I went dark for my friends because the stress of it was so much, but that was my self-care. I'm going to take myself out of like what people are expecting of me today. I'm going to go be by myself. So then when I got the house, thank God we got it in time, I could celebrate. And I shared in that celebration. It was really hard. If you're going through this, it's really hard. So I think on social media, we tend to see the pretty picture, but we don't read the captions.
Of course we do.
And there are people who everything is roses and butterflies and fucking rainbows all the time. But some people are actually being honest, like, here's the journey I went through. And it's so important that we look at people and go, they're on a journey and we didn't start at the same starting point. And they're going to have a different detour. And so just being honest with yourself, like, and this might be helpful for people. So when I was unsure of what to do with free time, because I am someone who's like, oh, there's a free hour. Let me feel that. Let me show you how much I can do in a day. Everyone overachiever, recovering overachiever over here. So I had my assistant like block out all this like time in my week to do nothing. Right. So it literally says done for the day. As soon as we're done with this podcast, like on my calendar, it says done for the day. I'm done. Like I have it there, right? So, but I have these little chunks that like to protect, and it was like blocked out so I wouldn't see an empty space in the calendar. It had to be blocked out like an appointment. But in that, I had a list of things that I could do in that time. Some of those things were free. Some of those things were paid. Some of it's like go outside, read a book. Some of it's go for a walk. Some of it was workouts, but it was a list of things so that when that came up, I can go, what do I want? What's striking me right now? And so this is for you, Lyndsay. You're like, I don't even know what would be so good for me right now. It's like, just make a list of anything. And then when you read the list, just see which thing pops out and then go try that. And it's actually really crazy because I did all of that. And now I do have these things like tried and true. They're in the morning or they're in the night routine. And they really, like when I don't have them, I can go a few days. Like I can be out traveling and not have my, red light, but I better have something to give myself while I'm traveling. Otherwise, I'm going to start to get tired. I'm going to start to get resentful. I'm going to start to get frustrated, So I don't know, give that a try so you can like taste test self-care.
I love that so much because, and I'm not even shitting you. 2 days ago on my calendar for all of the rest of June and half of July, I put in boundarying. That's all I put in. And I put it for the entire day. So nobody could put anything on my calendar. That's all I did. I was like, there was no rhyme or reason. I don't have a list of things I'm going to fill it with because there are other things that are in there. But I knew, especially with doing this show and you understand it, oh my gosh, it's a lot of work to do it and to do it well and to do it with the kind of love and heart that we give to what we do in life because you're the same spirit animal as I am in that regard. But I was finding that I had my calendar open to anybody at any time for anything from a guest for the show. And I had to like, whoa, like I like have clients in my actual business making money. Like I needed to put something in the calendar that just made sure that nobody could put their space on my calendar unless I'm allowing them to do it. And I literally did it 2 days ago. And I this morning when I woke up, sorry, we didn't sleep for 48 hours. So let's just say I slept last night and I woke up and looked at my calendar. Let's just do that. And I was like, boundarying. And it was something. And now I have to flesh out what that actually means. And that totally helped me, what you just said. Like, that is awesome.
I love that. I love that. I also so I think sometimes it is okay to go to the extreme and like pull back. Because sometimes we don't know what the edges are. So when I started my podcast, of course, we put up like, oh, here's all the hours, like on the Calendly link. It was like any hour that is available for coaching or teaching, then you could put a podcast in. Well, oh my gosh, I could literally go from doing a podcast, interviewing someone. So like thinking about my listener, making sure I'm like asking the questions and being super present to then teaching someone Pilates on Zoom. and then coaching someone about their business and then filming for my platform. I could do that all within 4 hours. That is fucking chaos. That is way too much. It is, I'm thinking about there's too many different people. So what we did, then we restricted it to, okay, we'll only let, I only need to record 3 hours of only 3 hours availability for podcasts a week. Okay. But that still didn't cut. That still, sometimes I could still have all the hats. So then we're like, okay, on Fridays we podcast. We don't coach on Fridays. We tried all this thing. Finally, this is what I ended up coming to. And this is why it's like trying on clothes, y'all. You don't buy jeans that look like shit on you. You might wear jeans that look like shit on you, but that happened over time. You didn't go out and buy them, right? So you didn't settle. So you keep trying things on. For those of you who had a wedding and you had this big dream wedding, you didn't just buy the first wedding dress and go, yep, this is the one. You tried on others. You might have gone back to the first one, but you still tried on others, right? So this is the same thing with your schedule. So now what we do is Mondays and Tuesdays are empty space days so that I can meet with my team. We plug this in. But typically I have the whole day to get ahead on stuff in theory, right? No meetings, I have the day. So Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays are the days where I can actually book anything I do for our clients, our members, stuff like that. However, each week is a different one. So week 1 of the month, I do podcasts. Week 2 of the month, I coach. Week 3 of the month, I film. Week 4 of the month, I do these things. And so what happens is, I mean, people complain all the time to me who want to be on the podcast. There's the availability you have doesn't work for me, and there's nothing available till August. I'm like, okay, well, I'll see you in August. Then, who do you think you are? Are you Oprah? No, you're not. And so I am and even Oprah, I
was just going to say, even Oprah, I mean, give me a break.
Come on. I'm sure you have so many people doing shit for you. I'm sure you can comply with my schedule. So so it allows me, it's so nice. Oh my God, what's so nice is that it allows me to go this week on my work days. I am only focused on these people. And so it is easy for me to keep my brain. So even with your business, you may discover that okay, I'm only going to podcast on these days of the week, and I'm not going to, and then I'm only do client work on these days. It helps me lessen the chaos.
I like that a lot. And I've learned for myself, I was mentioning with the boundary in my calendar, but I had to go into Calendly and do the same thing where I was okay, whoa. I had my schedule booked open, nobody's business, and everybody was jumping in. And I'm I cannot do 20 meet and greets and 17 episodes in a week. What the fuck is wrong with me? And I did. And then I ended up going on vacation, and I got so sick that we were in Paris and Spain over the Christmas holiday season. And we were both sick for 7 days. It was just one of the most expensive naps we've ever taken. As terrible. France is just flying by us and Barcelona's flying by, we're just great. So we're in bed together for 7 days, even though the rest of the trip, the bookends were fine. We were sick in the middle. And I was talking to my sweetie actually right before this episode where I'm I am sick. I feel sick. I am coming up with something. We're leaving in 2 weeks. I'm we've got to get a grip on this right now. I got to sleep. I got to prioritize. I've got to say no to things and say yes to others. And that's something that it's a learning experience. It doesn't happen overnight. Like you said earlier, this is going to be a journey. Is it going to be a 3-month journey for this one? Probably not. There's a lot that needs to happen over here.
I think that the hardest part for a perfectionist is not getting it right the first time. You're not going to get it right the first time. And depending on how empty, go to the gas, a gas tank in your car. If you let the car get down to beyond E, we have all tested it. We're how far can I go though? Can I go?
It's like that Seinfeld episode.
Yeah. So you got there and you made it. It takes forever to fill that tank up. Holy moly. It's you're just there and oh my God, can this thing pump any faster?
God,
but if you were to fill it up when it was half fill, when we go on tour, anytime we stop to go to the bathroom, we just fill the tank up.
Yes.
So sometimes it's a quarter left, we can fill it up. And it's oh, goes so fast. That's how you have to think of your self-care. So you might try things out, but you're so in the negative, you haven't slept in 48 hours. It's not going to be a light switch that boom, my cup's filled. I feel great. It might take us some time. And so you're not going to get it in air quotes right the first time. And you're going to have to test the waters. And then some things that did fill your cup, some things that were self-care, are not self-care anymore. Like some of my friends who I like loved hanging out with, over time, I was like, I actually don't love that you say things like that. I actually don't. So I'm not going to do these things with you anymore. Like, your life changes. So in allowing things, and that's so hard for an overachiever, for perfectionist, type A personality, like also like if I just can control all the plates myself, then nothing will break. Like that's kind of like the childhood that I came from. Like if I just make sure everybody is happy, then no one gets in trouble. Right. So somebody told me, maybe it was my therapist, she said, your first thought is what's ingrained in you. Your second thought is like who you want to be. It's that be it till you see it. And so then so if you have this thought like, oh my God, like I'm letting these people down. Well, that's what's ingrained in you. Sure. Lyndsay, you have to do everything for everybody. Otherwise you let them down. Not true. You can let them down by doing everything for them too. So that's your first thought. It's ingrained. So then we have to go second thought. I am Lyndsay, the person who no longer takes care of others before I take care of myself. So what's one thing I can do for myself right now? Can I give myself a self massage? Can I dim the lights? Can I go lay down for 5 minutes? Can I go lay in the grass and get the sun on me for 5? So your second thought, and the action you take cements that. And so what happens is the old you, the you that has this habit of just doing everything for everybody, and it takes you 10 weeks before you take some time for yourself until you get sick. Then all of a sudden that can become 7 weeks, and then 5, 4, and then 2, and then 1, and then an hour. Like you can react much faster because now you're aware, and then you start to just build the muscle. How your brain was ingrained on things, I don't know that you'll ever ditch it. You'll probably always have this story that you have to go, oh, but that's not who I am. This is how I am right now. And you just get quicker at the change and the switch and how you react.
Yeah, it's just like what happens when you practice anything, okay, you don't just all of a sudden become an opera singer.
Nothing we do is overnight. Nothing is actually overnight. It's all just consistently showing up. And here's the secret to creating habits, everyone. Habits do not have to take 21 days or 60 days. I've read all these different timelines. Here's how habits are made. You can make a habit in an instant. So I study with BJ Fogg. He is a behavior scientist who created the behavior science lab in Stanford. And he wrote the book, Tiny Habits. And you can actually read his book and you're going to learn everything that I learned to be a certified habits coach. Here is the deal. Habits come from feelings. How something makes you feel determines whether or not it's going to become a habit. If I want to work out, but after work, let's say I go to a job and I'm like, I'm going to go to the gym after work. Let's say I go to work and I'm like, fuck, I'm such an idiot. I forgot my gym clothes. I'm all these things, right? We start punishing ourselves, we start judging ourselves, we start shaming ourselves. I'm going to guarantee you right now, your brain is not going to go, oh, the gym, let's go tomorrow. Your brain's like, oh, the gym causes me pain. The gym causes me stress. The gym causes me all these things. And so we will actually probably skip the gym again. It will take even longer. But if we go, oh my God, you know what? I forgot my clothes, but I'm so proud of myself for remembering that I was going to the gym. In fact, you know what we can do? We can go for a walk around this block because we're so awesome. And you start creating dopamine highs, then you actually will create a habit so much faster. So if there's something you want to do, here's the trick. You need to first make it the smallest version of itself possible. You have got to go. It cannot be, I'm going to run a marathon if you've never ran. It has to be, I'm going to put running shoes on. I'm going to put my running shoes on.
Sure.
Then, right. And then you celebrate that. Sorry, guys. I have dogs that are going crazy.
And they're celebrating this entire experience.
As long
they
as
are
we're good.
so all about it. And it is fine. We have dogs too. So
okay,
we're good.
Perfect. All right.
And if you're not a dog lover, then you can just stop listening. Yeah. All right. Wait, never mind. No, please keep listening.
Keep listening and but get a dog. Consider rescuing a dog.
Yeah.
Okay. I
love you so much.
So you need to, you really do want to make it the smallest thing. And maybe putting the shoes off, that's so small, especially for my recovering overachievers. So what you have to go is okay, you can try to run around the block, but if you find that's not happening, then you must make it smaller and then you have to celebrate it. The second thing is trying to put habits around things that you're already doing. So here's the thing. You already have habits in the morning, afternoon, at night. Anytime there's a meal, you already have habits. So you wake up when Lyndsay actually does go to sleep. She'll wake up in the morning.
I'll find out when that happens.
We all get out of bed and we all put our feet on the ground. So BJ Fogg has a great opportunity to create a habit of saying today is going to be an amazing day. And his sister, she lost her husband. And so she couldn't say today's an amazing day, because obviously the day she went to go to his funeral, that's not going to be an amazing day. But she said, today's going to be full of people who love me. So you can,
wow.
right? So like you can still use it to be honest with yourself, because the brain doesn't like dissonance. But so that's a great place to practice a habit, right? But then you brush your teeth. So is there something that you want to do in the bathroom, like a habit that you want to make in the bathroom? Like maybe it's that you actually want to start washing your makeup off. Well, you're already brushing your teeth, so you can make the habit of washing your face there because you're next to the sink. If you're trying to make the habit of going for a run after you brush your teeth, that's not going to be ideal, because there's so many things between the toothbrush and the running that have to happen, right?
So many things.
So keep it small. And then you celebrate that you did it. If you have kids, it's even easier because you can high five with them, you can dance with them, all that kind of stuff. But that's how habits are made and solidified. And it's easy to replace them. Like after you come back from Paris, like there'll be some habits that you're out of. They'll have to restart. You can start back when it's smaller.
But yeah, I mean, those little things, because I was sitting here thinking about all the things I do in the morning, and I'm actually fairly disciplined and methodical about the things that I do. Mm-hmm. And I haven't thought, as this perfectionist and type A crazy people are. But I didn't think necessarily, I mean, I know it's been a thought in my head, but I didn't necessarily apply this to what you're saying, where it's like just shift one little thing or add something new or take something away and make that one decision. Like for me, if I make that one thing in the morning that will shift me, then the next day I might try something different that works better. Mm-hmm. And that's great because I've worked from home for 24 years.
Whoa, you're an OG.
I am an OG. I started my business in 2000. Okay, so 23 years, my bad. 23 years in May, 23 years ago. And so I've worked from home forever. And so for me, like I'm not successful because I haven't been doing anything and I haven't been disciplined about it. But I slip in all kinds of bad habits into that time frame from working from home, as well as I do all of my good habits.
There's no such thing as a bad habit, because the bad habit serves something. It's giving you something. It's giving you a dopamine high. We don't like the habits. We don't like that habit that we have. So we call it bad, or we call there's some habits that I would say are unhealthy for us all, but it is providing some benefit to you. And that is why you do it. So for example, people who check their email as soon as they wake up, it is providing relief. Relief is part of that dopamine high. Oh, there's nothing going wrong.
Okay,
there.
I'm good.
I'm good. And so literally parents could create a bad habit of checking their phone in the middle of the night because the school might text at 5 a.m. that there's not going to be school. So then they check and they're like, oh, there's school today. Relief. Well,
thank
now
God I don't have to
morning.
look after these freaking urchins today.
Yeah, exactly. So guess what happens tomorrow?
That is a dopamine rush.
They'll check their phone the next day because it became a habit so quickly. So when you have a habit that you are no longer wanting in your life, like you're like, this habit makes me feel bad about myself, or this habit actually is causing me to not have enough sleep, or whatever that is, bad habits have to be unraveled because there is a prompt that is causing that habit to happen. So think of it like a bell of some kind, right? So you have to unravel the habit. You have to take the prompt away. If you don't want to snack anymore at your desk, not buying snacks is actually not the answer, because it creates a void, and voids create suction and creates you binging or doing something worse, and then you shame yourself. So instead, if you don't want to snack on chips, what would be an appropriate snack that you would be okay with? And you put that in your desk. So maybe it's carrot, or maybe it's, I hate celery, but maybe it's that, or maybe it's anything else that you can chew on. Maybe it's gum. Maybe you need to just chew on gum so that you are replacing the habit with something else, and not creating a void.
Yeah. And I like that because like I smoked many, many years ago, and I just was like, I'm just going to just stop smoking because this is stupid. And please stop smoking, everybody. All right. Thank you. And one of the things that I did was I just put carrot sticks in my hands. That's what I did, because I was a major smoker when I drove. And so I had to eliminate the driving part. So as soon as I eliminated smoking in my car, but I would hold my carrot sticks like a cigarette in my hand, and it like replaced it so quickly. I was like, done. I like stopped smoking instantly. It was nuts. And just such a quick, I mean, obviously some of it's your mindset and making the decision that you want to do something, but also coupled with something like that. I think that's excellent. This is excellent, my dear.
I love it.
But what I want to do is quick before we jet out of here, I wanted you to talk to us about what it is that you do in relation to helping us with this mind shift and this the mindset and that shift and into creating better habits, but how your approach is in some last words for us before we jam out of here.
Yeah. So
and I'm sad about it.
I know this has been so much fun. This has been the most enjoyable conversation I've had in a long time. So thank you.
Thank you for not saying just today, because that would have been very sad.
No. So I teach people all this about self-care through the lens of Pilates, because that is my specialty. So I believe like it helped me connect to myself. And so if I can use Pilates to help you connect to yourself and for you to make a habit and for you to have self-care, then that is actually the domino effect you need in your life, and everything how we do one thing is how we do everything. And so when you work with us, you are moving on your body, and you're hearing us say, it is actually brave and courageous to replace this exercise with one you can do. If you can't do this one, then you're reminding yourself, throughout life, if you actually do that, if you actually replace the exercise that we're doing with something you actually can do or want to do, and you go rogue and you're not being that perfectionistic person, you're doing what your body needs. One, you celebrate that, you feel good about it. But also later in the day, when someone is offering to do something and you don't want to do it, you can actually remember, it's brave and courageous for me to do the thing I can do and not the thing I can't do. And so we use our Pilates practice to actually help you create habits, to help you take care of yourself, and also to teach you how to do life better, which is our whole thing.
I love it. And on her calendar, okay, not yours. She's not going to move things around for you. She's going to move things around your body. That's for sure.
Yeah. And also, also because we're the only platform that actually takes the class away. So you show up for yourself. So literally there's like the class that dropped today. It's only available for this week. That's it. Nope. You missed a week. You're on vacation. You can't buy it later. Nope. We don't do that. We take it away. So you've made the decision to show up and move. When you log in on your app and you hit play, you'll have, depending on your membership, you'll have between 2 and 6 classes to choose from at any given time. Most people, it's just 2 because they only have access to a mat. So all you need is to have access to a mat, and you will hit the play. And we also believe that finishing is optional. So if you show up for 5 minutes, that you did your class that day, and that's enough. And so we constantly remind you of that. And that is our whole thing. And so the classes are on demand, but they do have accountability, and everyone's taking the same class at the same time. So when you share in the community, like, oh my gosh, today's class was really hard for me, or today's class I had an aha moment, everyone knows what you're talking about.
Oh, I love that.
It's really fun. It was really important to me. I love community. I think community is the best thing for us all, even though I'm a totally high functioning introvert. I truly believe that we do better when we feel like we belong in a community. And it's really important that when you see someone else go, I was going to skip today, but I actually did. It was really fun. And then you go, oh my God, I was going to skip today. Okay, I'm going to go do it, because you are inspired by other people. So It's just, that's my thing. And Pilates is for everybody. And if you don't want to do it with me, that's fine. But you need to move your body, and it can't just be pounded at the gym. Cardio is not going to make you have the body that you want or feel super good. You do not need as much cardio as you think. You need to really strengthen your muscles. Your muscles move your bones. If you are in pain, we need to have more muscular strength in your body to actually help you sit out of your lower back, to help you move without hurting yourself. And if you have MS or fibromyalgia, things like that, Pilates can actually be one of the only movement modalities that can actually be there for you. So if you are in pain, there are teachers who specialize in different pains. And if it's just regular, normal aches and pains, we absolutely can do that. Or we can, if you have anything that's more chronic, then you just let our customer service team know first, and I can actually jump in and go, yep, we can solve that. Here's what you do to modify that. So we can be there to help you. You're not on your own just because it's on demand.
Well, I'm just absolutely in love with you. And I know that everybody listening is as well. So let's tell everybody how we can find you.
Yeah. So I love to hang out on Instagram at Lesley.Logan. If you go to that, my links there will take you everywhere you need to go for anything for the podcast, for all of it. But that's where I hang out, and you can, tell me what your takeaway is of this show, and definitely let Lyndsay know, because that's how we feel good as podcasters, that we helped you.
We do.
And if you are pie curious, meaning you're Pilates curious and you're unsure, you can we have a very beginner series. It's called Full Body in 15. And if you go to fullbodyin15.com, you can get 3 free classes, and there's actually a workshop component. So I teach the class, it's 15 minutes. And then I actually break down each exercise, and I answer questions from people who came to it when we did it live. And so we offer modifications, we offer different things. And so you don't ever have to pay me. You can actually just enjoy those for free and get your Pilates in. It will change everything you already love to do.
Well, you couldn't have sold me any more than that, baby. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been so much fun and I don't ever want it to end.
Oh, thank you very much for asking me. Thank you for these amazing questions. And I will have to do it again. And also you'll have to tell me by December 6th if you've been it till you saw it so we can share your story.
Okay. Well, I'm listening to your show and I'm going to sign up for all this stuff because I know that I need it like badly and more so now than I did at the beginning of the episode. Let's just put it that way. All right. Thanks again for being with me, sister.
Thank you.
You are exclusively invited to share this self-care Pilates absolutely amazing extravaganza of an episode, VIP pain journey together. Let's get to the heart of how to heal with you by my side. Please follow the Pain Game podcast wherever you digest your podcast content. We will be there. Visit us at thepaingamepodcast.com and follow us on all the socials. Thanks for listening, my little VIPs. Catch you on the other side.